What's up, guys? Jason up at the New 80's Revolution down here in the cave for another top 5 video, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, a top 5 video. And no, it's not the top 5 reasons that the New 80's Revolution has been missing in action for the past week or so. That is not it. That is not the show tonight, but I will tell you where I have been. Tonight, we are going to talk about something that people have asked me probably since the first day of the channel. And it's really a question that I have struggled to answer. People have wanted to know who are your favorite wrestlers? Who's your favorite wrestlers? Who's your favorite WWF wrestlers? And so tonight, I'm going to attempt to make some sense of my answers because it's so hard to do. You know, when we'll get into these top 5s, we'll get into the top 5 show deep, just like we did the Whatever Happened To shows. We'll get into these top 5s, but they're going to be complicated because I don't know how you rank things that you love, you know, equally. So I think really the top 5s are just going to be 5 favorites. I don't think they're going to be in order of, love. So tonight, my top 5 80's WWF wrestlers. That's right. And of course, why? Why am I choosing them? But first, where have I been? Yeah, well, we were hitting it pretty hard there. We were doing dailies. And it was good. And you guys were my stress reliever. But over the past week, I've had some stuff done around the house. I put in I had put in. I didn't put it in myself. I mean, why would I get my hands dirty? I paid somebody to pour a very, very large patio in my backyard, about 680 square feet long. It's a long patio. It's the whole length of the house, and then it comes out significant distance. So it's a big patio. It's a big patio. And that's stressful. You know, and I was complaining about it to somebody today, and they were like, wow, those are really first world problems you got there, fella. And I was like, yeah, you're kind of right. I was stressed because, my patio was poured, and I didn't have all my furniture delivered yet. Yeah, how about that? I didn't have all my patio furniture delivered from the Amazon. And so, so I was stressed. No, that's not all. That's a big part of it. But, when you have some major work done to your house, whether it's indoors or outdoors, there's always a mess to clean up. And the simplest things, they took down my fence gate to pour the patio to get the machines in and stuff. So they detached my fence gate, and when I went to hang it back up, it doesn't close now because the concrete is blocking it. So I had to take it down, and I had to raise up the hinges, and I had to hang it higher, and it's little things like that. Like I said, the yard's a mess. There's still some dirt that they didn't haul away that we've got to spread out, and it's the cleanup that's the bother. Anyway, first world problems, 100%. But that's why I've been like, I don't want to go make a video. I want to just pout about life upstairs on my couch. Even though you guys are a major stress reliever of mine. But we're going to do it. Big surprise tomorrow. Well, you'll see it probably Sunday. But the return of slightly more experienced campers go camping. That's right. It's Liam and I's first camping trip of the year. We'll be hitting it up tomorrow, Saturday, and having the camp out. And we'll film it for you, and we'll put it up here. It'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. That'll be a little bit of a stress reliever, sitting around the old fire, drinking some beers with my boy. Okay, so top 5 WWF wrestlers from childhood. Okay, in no particular order. I'm going to go with one that, probably the wrestling, the smart marks will scoff at and turn their nose up at. But my number one out of five, no particular order. My first favorite wrestler of the 1980s, WWF, Hulk Hogan. Of course. I mean, I have read stories of adults now writing, on message boards and forums and things about how they even hated Hulk Hogan as an 8-year-old, and I kind of want to call them out on that. I think they're lying. If you were an 8-year-old boy and you were watching WWF TV in 1984 and 85 and 86, and you hated Hulk Hogan, you were probably some kind of sociopath of some kind, I would think. Because come on, it's the whole thing. The whole show is centered around this big giant beast, the Hulkster, Hulkamania, the toys, the action figures, the every single piece of merchandise memorabilia was had something to do with the Hulk. And I like him for a different reason. Do I love his ring work? No. No. But Hulk Hogan was my introduction to the WWF, and I've told you that story a million times. I won't give you the long version of it, but that's how I discovered WWF. Late one night, on my own cable TV in my own little room, at 8 years old, somewhere in 1984, I stumbled upon, flipping through the dial, I stumbled upon WWF Championship Wrestling, and it's around April, May, June maybe when their intro switches over from the classic Championship Wrestling intro to the Thriller, Michael Jackson's Thriller. And the whole opening credits of the show is Hogan walking, is the recap of the Hogan Sheik title win. And it's got Thriller playing in the background. And I was like, whoa, what's this? And that was it. It was on, And Hulk Hogan brought us lots and lots of exciting moments as kids. Don't even pretend that you were not Hulkamaniacs and that you did not get excited about Saturday night's main event with the Hulk, introducing the show, and don't tell me you didn't get excited about WrestleMania 2 and WrestleMania 3, and it was, of course, it's the Hulk, number one, for me as a kid. And when I got to meet him a couple of years ago, it was a major thrill, and I told him that you only had like 4 seconds with the guy, and I just said, all I said was, this is one of the best days of my life. And he just went, oh, and then we shook hands and took a picture. So that was that. Hulk Hogan, number one. Number two, now we're probably going to get into some actual wrestling talent, but my second favorite WWF wrestler of the 1980s is the Magnificent Morocco. My favorite bad guy of all time, the Magnificent Morocco. And what I like most is stuff that I have seen since childhood. I like Don Morocco in the very early 80s in the WWF. 82, 83, when he is feuding with Jimmy Snuka, when he is chasing Bob Backlund for the world title, and of course, when he is the Intercontinental Champion, having amazing, longer matches at MSG and in Philly. And some of the best matches I've ever seen. Don Morocco against Bob Backlund, Don Morocco against Pedro Morales, certainly Don Morocco versus Jimmy Snuka in bloodbaths, just fantastic matches. He's a great bad guy. Don Morocco is a great bad guy. If you want to go back and watch some good promos, unscripted promos, go back and watch some MSG or Philly Spectrum promos with Don Morocco. He's got almost like a Jake the Snake Roberts sort of cool, evil vibe to him, right? Where you're just like, what is he talking about? I think it's something good. But he's making a whole lot of sense. It was just cool, and you knew that he was just pulling that stuff, right off the top of his head. There's an image that I have of him in my head as he is entering the coming down the aisle, as they say, of MSG, and he's got a red hoodie, and he's got the hood up, and he's just kind of walking to the ring, and the fans are all over him. He was a great staller. He was a great reactor to the beach bum chants. Great facial expressions. One of the best sellers I've ever seen. And tough, really looked like a legit tough guy in there. Loved Don Morocco. Tried to think about how he could have been the world's champion. I definitely think, Bob Backlund had a 6-year run. I definitely think that Bob Backlund could have traded the belt with Don Morocco at least once. But his Intercontinental title run was great. Losing it to Toto Santana, who we'll talk about in a minute. Losing the belt to Tito in Boston Gardens in early '84. Legitimate torch passing. Don Morocco kind of faded out after that. And then he took on Mr. Fuji as a manager, and he was still a force. He had a feud in the 85, 86 with Ricky Steamboat, which was awesome. And then that was it for Don Morocco until he came back as a very bloated, inflated, roided good guy. And I haven't seen that footage in a long, long time. I'm sure I will eventually, but I'm all itchy for some reason. But that was not the greatest comeback and good guy run, but Don Morocco is a very, very good bad guy. My third favorite wrestler from the 1980s is Toto Santana, because of how good his matches are. Toto Santana looked awesome in the ring and kept you entertained, whether he was working, a 3-minute match on Championship Wrestling, or he was in MSG. And Tito, I think, I read somewhere that Tito has like the most matches for the WWF in the 80s. They used the heck out of that guy. And great matches. Some of the best feuds I've ever seen. His feud with Don Morocco is fantastic. His feud with Greg Valentine is legendary. His matches against Randy Savage are tremendous. And right after his Intercontinental title run, he gets a shot at the tag team titles with another, incredible wrestler, Rick Martel. So here we have Tito and Martel, two fantastic wrestlers, with a nice tag team title run. And that's when wrestling started to change a little bit, but I'm sure they had some great matches with the Hart Foundation and guys like that. So I'll check those out as I get more into my footage. But never, ever, ever a bad match with Toto Santana. Definitely in that flying forearm, or the flying burrito, or flying jalapeno, as Jesse Ventura would call it, was awesome. It was a legit move, and he threw himself into that move. I watched some early stuff with him, early '84 stuff, and once he is committed to that move as a finisher, man, he is flying through the air, and he really, really makes it look like he just smashes that guy in the head with that flying forearm. Great finisher, Toto Santana. I met him. I didn't have the best experience meeting him. Because I'm a dork, I think, and I messed something up. But I went to an indie show I was kind of a guest in an indie show, not as the New 80s Revolution. This was like years ago. A guy that was putting on, it was the IWC with Norm Connors, like a kind of a popular East Coast indie fed. And they would do like this Night of Legends in Pennsylvania. And a friend of mine at the time, through tape trading, it was held at his school, and he was kind of not promoting it, but he was working it. He was working behind the scenes, and it was his gym. It was his, he was the basketball coach. Like, it was his school. So he invited me up, and somehow I got asked to work with Toto Santana at his autograph table. And I had no idea what that meant. I was excited. I was nervous. And then I found out that meant that I had to be the meanest guy in the world, because I had to, like, Toto Santana would just sit there and I would have to, like, speak for him. So if, like, a little kid came up to the table and said, can I please have your autograph? And like, I'd have to tell the kid, well, it's $20, kid. And like, Tito would be like, yeah, I'm sorry. I can't do it. That guy said so. And the worst, it was the worst. And then I would do that. And he'd be the face. Like, he'd be the good guy. He'd be like, no, it's okay. I'll do it this time. But I had to be the one who, like, told everybody the prices. And then I had to take the Polaroids. And who the hell has a Polaroid now? But the Polaroid camera button would always stick, and he would get mad because the guys are posing. And who doesn't have their own camera or their own phone or something? I got to use his Polaroid. I don't know how to use a Polaroid. It was a faulty Polaroid, and he would just be like, "Oh, all you do is press the button." And I'm like, "You son of it's not working. The button's not working." I don't know if that ruined my image of him, but he's still on my list. All right. Anyway, Toto Santana. Number four, Ricky Steamboat. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, again, for match quality. His offense, his defense, his selling, his facial expressions, tremendous. Ricky Steamboat is one of the best wrestlers of all time. And I loved every single match he was in. Again, great feuds with Don Morocco. Obviously, great feud with Randy Savage. The WrestleMania 3 match is fine, okay? I know everybody says it's the greatest match of all time. It's a match with a lot of near falls and some chain wrestling. Okay, it's a fine match. It's a good match. The Intercontinental title run, great. Good stuff, Ricky Steamboat. Never, ever a bad match anywhere he's ever gone. Even when he got older, remember when he came back, like Chris Jericho on Raw was like doing this Legends gimmick or something where he was like hating on all the legends, and I think they brought back Roddy Piper and Jimmy Snuka, but they brought back Ricky Steamboat, and then they gave Ricky Steamboat like a little mini run, like he was having matches with Chris Jericho, like outstanding matches with Chris Jericho, well into his 50s, I assume. Ricky Steamboat. Great wrestler, and my top four. My number four best favorite wrestler of the WWF in the 80s. Now, number five is surprising, but number five is Greg Valentine. Greg Valentine is my fifth favorite WWF wrestler. Again, a guy who got a ton of use. I think him and Tito are probably neck and neck with most matches in the 80s. Brutus Beefcake is up there with most matches in the 80s. But Greg Valentine was such a great bad guy and really a scary guy. Super thick and super mean looking, and just you almost wondered like if Greg Valentine really ever truly laughed, out loud. If he really laughed, or did he just kind of you just kind of grumble. But again, great matches, great feuds, tag team title run with Brutus Beefcake, which is kind of a strange combination looking back. But fun tag team title run, awesome ring work, just great. He did the Flair flop. Actually, he did his version of the Flair flop where, you would just slug away at him. And after a certain amount of punches, he would just stop and freeze. And the guy would still punch him, and he would be no-selling the punches because he was already knocked out on his feet. And then he would flop forward. The Valentine flop. I loved that. I loved the figure four leg lock. I loved the chops. Valentine was probably one of those guys who you could slug away with in the ring. You could probably, chop each other to death. And some of the best matches I've ever seen against Tito Santana. And, good matches against Hulk Hogan, great matches against Hulk Hogan, and great run, and great Intercontinental title run, great tag team run. Used him a lot as an LJN in the old Figure Federation. But Greg Valentine is my fifth favorite. So that's that. Honorable mentions to guys like Randy Savage, who've never had a bad match ever. Bret Hart, but we're kind of creeping out of the 80s there. I actually liked Jimmy Snuka a lot in the 80s. He was the most over wrestler in the WWF at the time, and probably more over than Hogan in some areas. Great stuff. Great MSG matches. Some of the most legendary matches Jimmy Snuka has had against Don Morocco. Cage matches. Bob Backlund. Jimmy Snuka as a bad guy, fantastic. Great stuff. Go watch Jimmy Snuka as a bad guy. So those are a few honorable mentions. You got my top 5. The next time we do this, we'll do my top 5 NWA wrestlers. My top 5 favorite NWA wrestlers from the 80s. And that's going to be a fun list, actually. Because those guys are the guys that I choose then for that group is all about work quality in the ring and just great matches the NWA put on that even an 8, 9, 10-year-old appreciated back in the day. That's the top 5. We're going to come back with a plethora of top 5s. I'll probably do my top 5 list at some point. I don't know. Anyway, that's that. Now you know the answer to the questions. Who's my favorite WWF wrestlers of all time? Until next time, good night now.